They said she hated men. Fati simply could not afford to be betrayed twice. Fati was called many names wherever she went. From Dansoman, Kumasi, East Legon, Ashaiman, or wherever she found herself, people tagged her as the no-nonsense beauty, the hardest lady, the Wall of China. She did not really care because she was the CEO of Zenith Innovations, a company that controlled the future of architectural buildings in West Africa. Her success was staggering, but her reputation was ice. Most men she met in the corporate business hated her, not because she was better, which she was, but because she refused them. She refused their deals unless they met her impossible terms. She refused their easy flattery. She drove vehicles that commanded respect. She lived in a house far bigger than she has ever even dreamed of, and she moved through the world like a force of calculated nature. She was like this because of a wound that never closed. This wound came from her father, Jibril, a name she swore never to hear or pronounce. When Fati was only 11, Jibril left her and her mother to fend for themselves in Nima. Shame and hunger was their everyday food. Mama Amina brought home very little food, for that was all she could afford. But one thing she did not give up on was her daughter Fati. The memory of the rent collector shouting, the shame of Mama Amina having to hawk vegetables in the fierce afternoon sun, the smell of burnt porridge, that was all they could afford, was the betrayal. Fati stood on to be the best and to never trust any man. She built her entire life on one rule: never need a man. She watched her mother sacrifice everything, aging 20 years in 3. She stood on that grounds and excelled in all levels of academics, from basic to university, all because of what happened. Everywhere she went, different men came to her. A politician once tried. She humiliated him. A lawyer also tried. He regretted. Even in the gym when she was simply working out, they tried to get her attention. But she cared less. Her friend, Faiza, kept telling her, "You want to marry a monument, Fati, not a man. You want someone carved from granite, someone like Superman, not flesh and blood that can fail you." Firdaus would shake her head. "No man can meet the standard of the man you keep dreaming of, my dear. Just find your poison and drink it slowly now." Fati did not care. She guarded her success like a secret, painful memory. Her office, high above Accra's heat, was her sanctuary. But all that was about to change during one of her supervisions of her ongoing project in Tema. Fati was in charge of a new building for one Mr. Amuzu. She made plans for the and so had to supervise. But things were not looking too good. The workers barely understood how she wanted things, so Mr. Amuzu hired Omar to come deal with the grounds work and try to see if he could understand Fati's work better. Fati rubbished the idea at first. Because she knew what she was doing, the workers simply did not. When Omar arrived that day, Fati was not around, but one of the workers handed him the blueprint of how the building would look like. He looked at it intrigued and fascinated at the same time. He started to give swift commands on where things should be and how it should go. Fati arrived in the afternoon and was surprised to see everyone smiling and happy going about their works. When she got to the office, she realized her blueprint was not there and was a little furious until she noticed someone different from the everyday workers, a man in grey shirt and a vest. Omar noticed Fati approaching. As Fati got to him, she was furious at first, but as soon as Omar spoke, she felt different. Omar spoke only when necessary, but when he spoke with a quiet authority that stopped arguments instantly. Fati was silenced. She was intrigued. She watched Omar look at her detailed architectural plans for the new building. They sat in the dusty project office, going over blueprints, tracing lines with calloused fingers, and for the first time in years, Fati felt truly understood. They spoke the same language and soon more. They started working late, sometimes, until the azan was called for the late prayer. sometimes even on weekends. Fati found herself extending meetings and lingering in the project office long after the last workman had gone. One afternoon, the sun was setting, casting long, dusty shadows across the concrete floor of the 10th story. Fati and Omar were alone, looking out over the sprawl of Accra, the whole city appearing small from their height. Omar turned to her and simply said, "Fati, dinner, Bosphorus, tomorrow." Fati looked at him and replied, "Which part of the blueprint says that?" They both burst into laughter, but Omar was serious. She felt the blood rush to her face, a heat she hadn't felt since she was a teenager in Nima. She took a breath and found her voice. "Bosphorus is expensive, engineer, and it is very formal." "I am an engineer, Fati," he replied. "I build things to last. I can afford a good steak. And I want to speak to the woman who built her own tower, not the CEO." She replied with a blush on her face. "I will be there." That evening was about to unravel a world they both did not see coming. Fati usually spent dates interviewing men about their retirement funds and 5-year plans. With Omar, she found herself talking honestly about Nima and about her mother's strength. To her surprise, they shared a deep, painful commonality, a history of a father who abandoned them both. Before we proceed, my people, please subscribe to Stories of Africa for 10 days of good luck. Let's go. Omar's father, a foreman, had left when Omar was a teenager, disappearing to Kumasi, leaving his mother with nothing but empty promises and debts. "I built my life on concrete, Fati," Omar admitted softly, looking down at his strong, practical hands. "I built it on one promise: I will never be a disappearing promise. And I have vowed that all the days of my life as I live, I swear never to be like my father. I will love and care deeply for my family." As she watched Omar talk, she saw more than just a man. He was his future children, or better still, their future. This was her Superman and her dream come true. So it was that after so long, Fati finally settled with Omar. Their wedding was small, solid, and joyous. They built a home where there was no fear and never any hunger. They had their own children, teaching them to respect the value of labor and the truth of a promise. And to this day, if you ever pass by one estate around Accra, just know it belongs to their children all. So my little advice to anyone seeking love out there is be patient and do not pick just anyone. Thank you for watching, and see you next week.